Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Acebeam Rider RX flashlight right here. Very interesting light, but first off, before I go any further, I gotta let you know, this guy was sent to me by Acebeam. They reach out to me pretty regularly with new products and whatnot, and I'll be honest with you, most of the time I say no, because it seems like, oh, it's basically the same thing I looked at before, but this one was a little bit different. It had some different features. Had a different aesthetic to it. Looked like it might be something that was a little bit more interesting to my viewers, so I went ahead and I said yes this time. But as always, I told them I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. It might be a gem, it might be junk. They did still send it along. Nonetheless, we do have to assume this is the very best quality controlled one of these guys ever, and I'm doing my absolute best not to let this affect the nature or the quality of my review. Next thing, let's do some size comparison. First off, here it is against the ruler I have just thrown onto the floor. Damn, I'm good. And what we see here is when we put this guy up against that ruler, this guy comes in right around, looks to be about 3 3¾ inches, about 9.5 centimeters, someplace in that vicinity, depending on how you count the button. So there is that. Here it is against a standard AA battery, which makes sense because this is a AA battery flashlight. Here it is against an 18650 battery. And what we're going to see here is that in terms of thickness, this is actually pretty similar to the 18650. Maybe this guy's slightly thicker, but that should give you kind of a sense of how that guy works out. And then here it is next to, I don't know, here's another AA style flashlight. This is the EGTAC D25A in titanium. And so you see, this is actually a little bit larger than a number of your AA flashlights, but it is still that's a thing. So anyways, let's go on ahead and jump into the review. Actually, a few quick other things real quick. This is a AA flashlight. We'll talk about what I just did there in a moment here, but this is using a AA battery. I mean, you can use a regular, just kind of AA, or you can use this rechargeable one that they include with you there. All of the numbers I'm going to give you in terms of runtime and in terms of lumens and whatnot are from the maker. I don't have the kind of calibrated equipment required to be able to verify those numbers, so please do take those with a grain of salt there. Then finally, this is going to be a quick review, although it did take a long time. Sorry about that, Acebeam. Anyways, let's go on ahead and jump into what I'm liking here, what I'm not liking so much. So the good side to start with, the price on this guy is actually pretty reasonable. It's about $50, but the build quality on it is nice. The metal is well polished. It's got a nice anodization on the inside there, which I assume is an aluminum there. Everything by and large works pretty okay. It's just, it's $50. And you know what? Yeah, you can absolutely get cheaper AA flashlights than that, but I feel like this isn't a bad price, all things considered, for what they're delivering here. Next thing, the build quality on it is actually overall quite nice as well. They've done a lot of good chamfering here on the insides of these holes, things like that. There's actually a fair amount going on here, but what they've got going on works well. It makes sense. And so I think, the build quality here is about where I would hope and expect, and maybe even a little higher than I'd expect for $50. It also does have some water and dust proofing, which is a beautiful thing. I appreciate that very much. The ergonomics on this guy are very, very good. And it's weirdly good. And what I mean by that is this clip here is gigantic, right? But it actually ends up sitting very well in the hand with it, right? You have a very nice grip. It orients itself well. I found that this was actually pretty nice in the hand generally, and a lot of it was actually using this big old clip here as a little bit of a finger hole. Next thing, this guy does use any AA battery. Like I said, you can pop out this guy and pop in a just standard AA battery off the shelf here. Throw that guy in, and what you're going to see is that although the outputs are a little bit lower with conventional AA's relative to the, here, I'll bring it all the way up there, compared to the lithium-ion number that they include with it, it is still very much a possibility, and that's great, right? Because in a world these days where we're getting more and more form factors with proprietary batteries that need to be replaced periodically but cannot be replaced by the user, there's a lot of joy in having a very standard form factor, right? A AA battery is a common thing that you can still get even just walking into a gas station. Most places you can still get batteries, right? And so that's a very nice thing. And there are also plenty of lithium-ion batteries available in that size, so you're never going to be high and dry when it comes to batteries. Next thing, this guy is pretty attractive looking. At least to me personally, I like the blue. I like the silver, and I think the fact that you get those hints of blue and whatnot is actually quite nice, right? I feel like it just makes the light a little bit more attractive, and it's not another damn black tube, right? So much of the flashlight world is so uninspired, is so just like tactical, high speed, low drag. Don't let the enemy see your position, and it's like, dude, I work in a freaking office, right? I don't need to worry about the enemy seeing me because the lights are on. The manager's right there. I'm made. It's case closed. So I appreciate the fact that they're doing. My manager is quite nice. I want to be clear about that. But anyways, I digress. This is an attractive looking light, and I think it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to fit in a lot better with a lot of people's overall carry aesthetic relative to something that's, well, a little bit more high speed, low drag, right? Next thing, this guy has 4 different settings, and each of them has different run times, right? So you start off on high. High is about 650 lumens with the built-in battery. All these numbers are quoted for the lithium ion here. And it backs down to all the way down to 330 with heat. But you get about an hour worth of runtime on the high level. If we go to the medium level, which, let's see here. Oh, I guess I have to go low. This would be a medium level here, which you get about an hour and a half of 280 lumens. The low version, there we go, is about 70 lumens. You get about 12 hours, which is not bad at all. And then you get 53 hours of the ultra low setting, which is a 7 lumen kind of thing. And that's not a lot of light, but at the same time, that's a lot of time. Right, and this can be exactly what you need if you are in a dark situation and you just need a little tiny bit of light. So that is a very, very nice thing. And so I think those are overall, it's a good spacing of settings, if that makes sense, right? And the run times are fine, especially for a AA light. Next thing, this has this, the weirdest thing about this that I've not talked about yet is this casing, right? It has this separate metal piece, this silver metal piece, which is independent of the internal light. It's independent of the blue internal bits. And the way that this works is actually with a bunch of ball detents around the outside here. This is a little ball right here, and this is a little ball right here, and this is a little ball right here. And as I move this clip around, the ball then drops into the next hole over here, right? And so I can swap this back and forth. I can rotate this, and it rotates with the clip in this little J channel here. And then I can actually move it further down and pop it all the way down there. This has the advantage of it suddenly makes the light tail stand, which is actually a nice thing. When you've got a light that has an exposed button on the back, it normally can't tail stand effectively, but that allows tail standing. But more importantly, they are advertising this as a fidget feature, right? On their website, it says it provides entertainment, especially for the fidgets. Which, okay. And it also does, they're saying reduce heat transmission. You know what? I buy that. There's a little bit of an air gap there. And especially if you're holding it, way back here, right? It's going to take a while for the heat to get from here all the way up to the fingers. But, that's not a big deal. Either way, look, the external casing thing, is it necessary? No, absolutely not. Is it fidgety? Yeah, absolutely is. Going to drive the people around you completely nuts because it is not a quiet fidget. But it does allow tail standing, and so that's kind of a neat thing, and it's a feature I've never seen on a light before. So there's that. And then finally on the good side, and the most important thing, we'll talk about what just happened there in a second. But the most important thing about this actually is the light pattern here. This is a very nice light. In terms of actually illuminating things, which is kind of its one damn job, it has a very nice light pattern. It has some spot to it, most certainly, but it also has a fair amount of flood around that spot, and it just works, right? This is a good light pattern relative to a lot of the other ones on the market that tend to be very, very throw-focused or spread-focused or flood-focused, that is. This guy feels like it's right down the middle, and it works really well. And more importantly, the emitter, yes, I must admit that the emitter is a Nichia 219F, and actually it works very well. It's a very nice, good color correction. If I kind of put my hand under here, it's a little bit trickier to see this, but then I compare it to, let's see here, what's something with a bad color? This isn't great, right? If I have that, and this is kind of very pale, very cold, as opposed to the Nichia, which keeps a fair amount of the overall coloration there. So, in fact, if I put the two of them next to one another, this is, by the way, the Nightcore tip. What we see here is a much more natural, it's probably hard to see over the camera, but nonetheless, and a nicer beam pattern too. So I do very much like the light coming out of this. This was a light that was very nice to just use. It worked quite effectively, and it gives you a good sense of color, which is, with a good color rendering index, which is not that uncommon. I'm sorry, not that common. So to me, all that's the good, is that it's got a Nichia emitter in here. It's a ball detent external casing for entertainment for the fidgets. It's got 4 settings with decent run times. It's attractive looking, uses AA batteries. Ergos are good, got some water and dust proofing, nice build quality, and a reasonable price. The bad side, I don't care for this kind of interface where it's like a partially pressed thing where you kind of have to unclick it and then click until you get the right thing and then click it the rest of the way. Because while you've got it in your hand, you kind of have to shut it off in order to change the... There are just better interfaces out there. It's not the end of any worlds, but I sure would have loved to seen this be a rotary with this little fidgety thing. That would have been kind of cool, right? Maybe a little ambitious, but still, that's a thing. Next thing, it's a AA light, so it's not going to last all night long, right? 12 hours on low is not nothing, but it's not the light you're going to grab for the night shift. Let's just be real about that. Next thing, these clips here. This is a clip that actually is doubly articulated, so you can put the clip on top of something like this. Here, I'll use this. You can put the clip on like this and have it, pointing this direction, or you can go the other direction and have it point this direction. This may seem like a little detail, but this can actually be nice if you're trying to mount this, for instance, to the rim of a hat, to a headband, to something along those lines. Having both options for how you want to insert the light into a strap and effectively giving you the option to carry it emitter up or down, that can be kind of a nice thing. Not the end of the world, but it is very bulky at the end of the day, and it is very large. Next thing, the external casing here does have the downside of if it is in this position here, because you see there's this J-gate. When it's in this position, it cannot move. You cannot go up and down. But when it's in this position and you go to press the button, it will occasionally run away from you. Like, I can no longer get into that button now. I mean, I can because I have relatively small fingers, but still. So, and it really depends. The amount of force required to press makes it very variable. Sometimes you actually trigger it before it deploys, and other times you really don't, right? And so that's kind of a little bit frustrating, right? You need to make sure that you're in this position when you're turning it on, particularly if you're trying to manipulate the brightness of it. So that can be a thing. And then the other biggest issue here, and this is a dumb issue, but it's one that would have been very easy to fix. They are missing exactly one additional gate. If they had one cutout right here, then what this would allow me to do is in this position, I can freely turn the light on and off. This doesn't particularly matter that much, but if I slide it further this way, that would have given me a hardware lockout. If I had slid this one over and prevented it from coming back this way, there is just no way to hit this button, right? And you would, in order to get out of that mode, have to manipulate the clip and then go back upwards and then over here, and then you would be able to. As opposed to right now, being down in this position doesn't really win you anything. So I really do wish that there were one more gate over here, not only because it would give you more fidgets for more entertainment, but because it would give you a hardware lockout basically for free. That just to me felt like you were so close, but you just need one hole right here, and right here, and then right here, and then and to be clear, this one might have been a little bit of a pain in the neck, although the spacing looks like it could have worked. But still, that would have been very nice to have a hardware lockout on this light, because unfortunately there is not one, right? If you have this guy on and you unscrew the emitter here at the front, by the time it's locked out, the light is already, by the time the light turns off, it's already detached. So that's not ideal, right? So it would have been nice to have hardware lockout, and that could have come for free with this casing. Little detail, but it just felt like an, missed opportunity sort of thing. So, to me, all that's the bad, is that the external casing missed that opportunity for hardware lockout. The external casing can occasionally make the light run away as you trigger it. The clip is functional. See, right there. Just try it again. The clip is functional, but it can be a little annoying with its height there. AAA lights and AA lights aren't going to last all night, and the partial press interface is not so great. Final conclusion, this is a fine little light, actually. I mean, it's got a reasonable price, decent build quality, basic durability, which you kind of want, right? Good goes the use of any AA batteries, but a good included USB-C charging internal battery. I think I showed that off, but yeah, this is just a USB-C port. You can just plug this right in to a USB-C cord. Sorry, hit the camera with my Batman mask. And what you're going to see here in a minute is, if this is plugged in, the other end of this might not actually be plugged in. the USB cable. Anyways, I digress. But you should be able to just plug that in, whoops, and it should work just fine. But either way, you've got attractive looks. You've got 4 different settings, each of which has reasonable run times. A very weird external casing, which offers some fidgetiness, as well as, I guess, a little bit of functionality with the tail stand, and a very nice beam and emitter generally. The interface is a bit fiddly. You don't get much staying power. The clip is functional, but it's a little much. The external casing can lead to the button running away from you on occasion, and it's missing one more little notch, which would have been very, very nice. But on the whole, you know what? It's a neat little light. Right? Although the fidget thing is not really the core functionality here, it is, more importantly than that, I think, a very pleasant departure from the over-serious tactical lights which have been in vogue for a while now. And most importantly, it has a very nice emitter, a very nice color, a very nice beam, all making it a very, very good little choice for everyday carry, and at a price that's honestly pretty workable. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, this is the best AA light ever. No, it's reasonably big. There are a number of other AA lights that are great out there in the world, but this one's pretty solid. And if you're looking for a nice little light that doesn't take itself too seriously, then this guy might be a perfect little rider for your pockets. Anyways, there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you and that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.